Most people assume canned food is canned food. You grab a can off the shelf, you trust the label, and you figure it's just food. But what's sitting in your pantry right now might be a very different product than what you think you're buying. The canned food industry is a multi-billion-dollar market, and like every large industry, it has corners being cut, ingredients being hidden in plain sight, and marketing language designed to make you feel good about choices that might not deserve that feeling. Today, we're going through 13 brands you should seriously reconsider, and 5 that actually hold up. I want to be clear up front. This video is for informational purposes. I'm not a doctor or dietitian. What I am is someone who has spent a serious amount of time reading labels, researching manufacturing practices, and comparing what companies say against what they actually put in their products. If you have specific health concerns, always consult a healthcare provider, but for the rest of this, pay attention. Canned goods have been a household staple for over 2 centuries, and for good reason: shelf stability, convenience, affordability. During busy weeks or emergency preparedness, there's real value here, but the category has a few systemic problems most shoppers never think about. First, BPA. Bisphenol A is a chemical used in the lining of many cans, and studies have associated it with potential endocrine disruption. Many mainstream brands still use it or have switched to alternatives that researchers are still evaluating. Second, sodium. Canned products are often loaded with sodium far beyond what the label makes obvious, and many brands add it as a preservative and flavor crutch. Third, and this one matters, ingredient quality drift. As brands get acquired by large conglomerates, the original recipes quietly change. The name stays the same. The contents don't. Here's what to watch for on any label. Sodium above 400 mg per serving, modified food starch used to bulk up texture, natural flavors as a vague catch-all, added sugars in savory products, and vague sourcing language. Now let's get into the specific brands. Libby's is one of the oldest names in canned vegetables, and it's also one of the most quietly disappointing. Owned by Seneca Foods, many Libby's lines have seen quality complaints around texture and sodium content. Their canned corn and pumpkin products often contain added salt with no low-sodium alternative widely available, and the BPA status of their can lining has not been clearly disclosed to consumers. For a brand built on heritage, the transparency isn't there. Del Monte has been in American kitchens for generations, but dig into their ingredient panels and you'll find added sugars in products where you'd never expect them. Canned fruit packed in syrup labeled deceptively as light, sodium counts that add up fast across a meal, and very little clarity on sourcing. Del Monte has also faced ongoing criticism for their canned vegetable lines using ingredients from overseas suppliers with lower regulatory standards. Hunt's tomato products are everywhere, and for some uses they're fine, but their flavored and seasoned tomato lines, like their pasta sauce and seasoned diced tomatoes, are a different story. High sodium, added sugar, and natural flavor listings that don't tell you much. For plain crushed tomatoes, they're passable, but their processed lines deserve more scrutiny than most people give them. Green Giant is a brand people associate with wholesome vegetables, and that image has done a lot of heavy lifting. But the canned line, as opposed to their frozen products, regularly shows sodium levels that climb past 350 to 400 mg per serving, and many of their sauced or seasoned vegetable cans contain modified starch, sugar, and preservatives. The branding says Garden Fresh. The label tells a different story. Here's one that's going to hit differently for some of you. Chef Boyardee. If you grew up with it, I get it. But look at what's in a can of their beef ravioli. Enriched pasta, water, beef, but also high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, modified cornstarch, and sodium levels that reach nearly 900 mg per serving for what's supposed to be a simple, quick meal. This is particularly worth knowing if you're buying it for children. The nostalgia is real. The ingredient list isn't something you'd choose if you saw it first. Check your pantry right now if you have any of these. Seriously, you might want to see this for yourself. Progresso is marketed as a step up, more refined, more real food than its competitors. And some of their plain broth-based soups are reasonable, but their cream-based soups, their rich and hearty lines, and their light soups with flavoring agents tell a different story. Modified food starch, soybean oil, carrageenan in certain varieties, and sodium counts that regularly hit 700–800 mg per serving. For a brand positioned as a premium choice, there's a meaningful gap between what the marketing implies and what the label confirms. Campbell's is the most iconic soup brand in America, and for that reason it deserves an honest look rather than a pass. Their classic condensed soups are sodium-dense by design. You're often looking at 800 milliliters or more per prepared serving. Their Well Yes line was positioned as cleaner, but several products in that line still contain natural flavors, added sugars, and sodium levels that don't match the wellness messaging. Campbell's isn't without good products, but the brand's reputation has consistently outpaced its ingredient integrity. Goya is a beloved brand in many communities, and culturally, it holds real significance. But from a nutrition standpoint, many of their canned beans, which should be one of the simplest, cleanest foods you can buy, come loaded with sodium, often 400–500 milliliters per half-cup serving. Their seasoned products are worse. Beans themselves are excellent. Beans processed with that much salt aren't doing you the same favor. Bush's beans in their original plain variety are genuinely decent. The problem is their flavored line: honey-baked, brown sugar hickory, maple-cured bacon. These products contain significant added sugar, often high fructose corn syrup, and sodium that stacks on top of the sweet profile. They taste great because they're essentially a side dish that's been candied. Worth knowing before you serve them as a health-forward option. Van Camp's is one of the cheaper bean brands on shelves, and the price reflects the quality. Their sodium levels are consistently high. Their canning liquid is thick with additives, and their manufacturing practices have faced criticism for inconsistency. If you're buying canned beans, you can do significantly better for the same price point. Hanover canned vegetables are regional but worth flagging. Their added salt content is persistently high even in their basic vegetable lines, and their no-salt added alternatives are not consistently available across all products. For a brand sold as an everyday value option, the sodium load isn't proportionate to the price savings. Armour canned meats, particularly their canned luncheon meat and Vienna sausages, combine sodium nitrite, mechanically separated chicken or pork, and sodium levels that make them a category worth stepping back from. Convenience canned meats as a category have challenges, but Armour's formulations sit toward the more processed end of that spectrum. SW, a brand often positioned as a slightly better option, has a mixed record. Their plain beans can be fine, but their seasoned and flavored lines suffer from the same added sodium, added sugar problems as much of this list. The better brand perception isn't always backed up by what's on the label. Now, here's where the story gets better. Eden Foods has been doing this right since before clean label was a marketing trend. They were among the first brands to line their cans without BPA back in the 1990s, and they've stayed committed to that standard. Their canned beans are organ-based. The ingredient lists are short, sodium is low or non-existent, and they don't use additives to bulk up texture. This is what a canned bean should look like. Amy's Kitchen makes canned soups and beans that consistently deliver on what they promise. Organic ingredients, transparent sourcing, no BPA in their can linings, and sodium-conscious formulations across most of their line. Their lentil soup and black bean soup in particular have built loyal followings for good reason. They taste like real food because they are. Muir Glen is the standard for canned tomatoes. Certified organic, non-GMO verified, and they transitioned away from BPA-lined cans years ago. Their fire-roasted crushed tomatoes and whole-peeled tomatoes have a flavor and quality you can taste. If tomatoes are a staple in your cooking, this is the brand to reach for. Wild Planet handles canned seafood, tuna, salmon, sardines, with a level of integrity that stands apart in a category that really needs it. Sustainably sourced, minimal processing, no fillers, no broth padding, and short ingredient lists. Their wild-caught tuna is a genuine upgrade over conventional canned tuna, and the price difference is smaller than you'd expect. Thrive Market's house brand canned goods, available through their online membership, consistently punch above their price point. Organic options, BPA-free cans, low-sodium formulations, and transparent sourcing. If you're not a Thrive member yet and you buy a significant amount of pantry staples, it's worth looking into. Here's the bottom line. The canned food aisle isn't something you have to avoid, it's something you just need to navigate with more intention than most of us were taught to. The brands on the first part of this list aren't necessarily dangerous in the way that sounds dramatic, but they're consistently not doing right by the customer. High sodium, low transparency, misleading positioning, and ingredient quality that doesn't match the marketing. The 5 brands at the end of this list prove it doesn't have to be that way. Clean labels, honest sourcing, real food, it exists and it's more accessible than you might think. If this video helped you see something differently, share it with someone who buys canned goods regularly, which is most people. Hit subscribe if you want more of this kind of label level breakdown. And drop a comment below. Which of these brands have you been buying? I genuinely want to know. Your pantry, your choices, your health. Now you've got the information to make them count.